Okay. How about... Do you want to go movement speed? Reduce damage from explosions to random stats. Sunglasses is terrifying. Because I could go speed. Movement, speed, and repair. I didn't need the triple jump as much as I thought I did. Yeah, let's try and go, like, really up close personal and really punchy with this run and see what we can do with it. What's a game that does headcanon really well? I mean, I guess we're talking about Wildermyth a little bit. Other game that I can think of off the top of my head that really hits that, like, headcanon feel would be RimWorld and Dwarf Fortress. And admittedly, like, both of those are kind of these eternal developed games that, yeah, go figure they have the room. You know, as part of their design, to allow for that kind of emergent storytelling. Yeah, I didn't get it. I need a shotgun more than this gun. I love this gun. It's solid, but it doesn't really have what I'm looking for. There we go. At least not for this run. What are my stats, by the way? Very split. I almost kind of wish it would just give me like a ton in one stat and just say like, here you go. This is your stat now. Go this build. I'm so used to having the shorty that it's actually really weird to not have the shorty. There we go. Who's left? You left. Back from the store. Dang, that was a trip. I guess it was less than an hour. Give me some wrenches, and I'm gonna go Robo. Let's lose that for... yeah. Thumper. Oh, interestingly enough, I actually don't have any assault points. Fair enough. Alright. There we go. There you go. Yeah, we're good. Alright, I really should not be shooting those. Wait, does this guy just start with this shield? I don't remember this character having just like the basic rechargeable shield going. Oh. Alright, that's something to potentially invest in. So weapons fire additional cryo sparks, increase weapon damage at close range, bash periodically deals increased cryo damage, or bubble lasts longer. Oh, point blank. It's kind of my goal anyway. Get big shotgun, wreck things. Did I buy as a meta upgrade? I don't think I did. Who's Thumper? I'm just gonna go this way. There we go. I guess part of the reason why I'm so fixated on the idea of emergent storytelling and potentially like some AAA companies experimenting a little bit more is specifically Microsoft seems like it's kind of become a good steward for a number of these games, which is odd. Like, I know a lot of people were talking about how the Microsoft acquisitions of like Obsidian and Bethesda and a couple other companies was like going to be a bad thing. I think to some degree I do agree with that could be bad. It's just I know Obsidian's always had issues like having enough funds. And I know Bethesda's always had a bunch of issues with stupid people being in charge. And I feel... I'm not going to say that like Microsoft is necessarily better, but it feels like they're probably going to be better than, you know, whatever the Bethesda board of directors were. Unless they're still there, at which point, gosh, I don't know. Right, I've got the explosions. I should use those. Whew. There we go. just get up close. I might consider the big bonk hammer move on this again. Oh, those grenades bounce. I was aiming at the ground hoping they'd explode, and they don't. I always like grenade launchers where the grenades don't bounce. Bouncing grenades throw me off really hard. Like, I can work with it if it's a frag grenade in Halo because I'm expecting it, but difficult in some other games. This is the stuff. This is what I was looking for. Alright, we leveled up. What do we got? Oh. Well, there is Jack of all guns. So now I can just use whatever I want. That is probably the best perk in the game, by far. Like most things, depends entirely on how it's handled. True. I mean, the nice thing is, like, I wait long enough and some indie company is going to come out with it anyway. Well, I'm already this deep in demolition, so I guess here we are. Okay. Gosh, yeah. Just having this slight temporary shield on this character has just turned him from being, yeah, kind of okay, to actually real primo. Okay. Definitely should get the repair cells drop more often perk, though. That's gonna be what makes this character sing. I mean, it worked great on the last run. Just in terms of, like, oh man, you don't take, well, you don't take... You don't have to worry as much. Okay. I do not know what gun this is. Elemental cannon. Oh, that sounds fun. Yeah, it seems like an okay gun for this run. There we go. The only problem is the slowdown's kind of rough. But at the same time, it's hard to miss with this thing. What I really want is that, like, sulfur cannon, or whatever the thing that just absolutely wrecks stuff. Let's see, they bought Bethesda in part based on the sales. And if they do what I fear, they'll cut 2/3 of their sales off before they happen. Oh, you mean by, like, locking off, like, PlayStation games? Because I could see that being a concern. I don't care about snipers. I'll bother with snipers when I play this multiplayer with somebody. The interesting thing that I've kind of been really appreciating recently is the fact that, like, Sony and Microsoft at this point no longer treat PC as this, like, you know, non-existent platform. That I was really expecting, well, I was really shocked, I guess, when Microsoft got into the game console game, and they said, yeah, we're not actually going to be releasing most of our Xbox games on PC. I'm like, why not? I'm sure it was easier to develop, maybe in that case, but it was always just baffling, because it's just... But... Ooh. Grandma's shotgun versus a better Grandma's shotgun. There we go. And more demolition, because that's the only thing I'm... There. Let's see. It's not like Sony's console exclusives, though, because those were Sony only, not franchises that became Sony only in most cases. True. Let's just keep going, jack of all guns. I think it's more of an issue with stuff like Bayonetta. I think the Bayonetta situation would be the one that I'd point to as kind of like not great. Where they released Bayonetta 1 on what, PlayStation 3? But if you want to play Bayonetta 2, you have to play it on the Switch and Wii U. And like that feels really weird to me. Just from I'm not gonna say like an organization perspective, but it's, you know, that's more of kind of a snub to long-term fans. I am curious if, yeah, they would refuse to release the next couple Elder Scrolls games on PlayStation. The real power move would effectively be to negotiate with Sony, to convince Sony to start releasing their exclusives on Xbox and vice versa. You know, hey, we bought Bethesda. You want the next Bethesda product? You know, put Bloodborne 2 on Xbox. You know, we'll give you a sweet deal for it. We just don't, and like, they almost use it as kind of like this weird, negotiating tactic to get rid of, exclusives in general. I doubt that this would ever happen, but it would be really funny. That was slick. Grab Robo. Cryo Launcher, Arquebus, nah, they're terrible. I thought there was an upgrade that gave me bonus guns. Holy shit, that's a lot of guns. There's the bow. Yeah, unless it has like a really cool perk, I'm not that interested. Wow, Blast Ball is, got some range to it. You know, I was talking about wanting that extra shield. Looks like it my current shield scales really well off my HP. Dude, thinking about the way EA buys up studios and kills them, rather than after making them devote years to games they never intend to release. Star Wars 1313, for instance. No, that's a good point. Though, how much of that is just the fact that EA is piloted by morons? I mean, maybe they're not as stupid as I think they are, but, like, after Westwood, I just was kind of like, wow, EA just lost the script, and I don't know why. And they've clearly managed to pull it off with Respawn, for the most part. The Respawn is kind of their current cash cow, but also, like, darling. There we go. These better. Sawed-offs. I love the idea of them, but no. And shock rifle. Also no. Oh, let's see. Size matters. Increases weapons ammo and clip cooling size. Wait. Ammo and clip, cooling size, cooling gauge size, reload, and cooling speed. Wow. Wait, so does that just mean I reload that much faster? I'm gonna grab it. That sounds solid. Let me see. There we go. EA are not morons. They're just legitimately greedy goblins. Yeah. That's probably a better way of putting it. I don't know. The problem is, like, their greed makes them morons. And so, like, I would agree with your assessment for the most part. If so many of their, like, weird, greedy decisions hadn't, like, kind of destroyed something, that would have been such a good cash cow. Like, who buys Command and Conquer to make some, like, really trash... not gonna say really trash sequels, necessarily, but the really trash mobile games, for example, like, that was their idea of leveraging the brand well. And that always just kind of confused me. But I think a lot of this just boils down to the fact that... I don't know. I have this problem with an amount of, like, kind of business interest where it's just like, hey, here's this, like, beautiful thing. Let's ruin it in the name of, like, fourth quarter bonuses. But a lot of that just has to go with that is how C-suite executives think. That it's less important to actually have, like, a company that lasts for, you know, decades. They just want to get their whopping paycheck and then get out after X number of years. Rinse, repeat. But I don't know. Does anybody actually know too much about the AEA upper power structure? Because I know with, like, Blizzard, it's been one guy for, like, well, it's been Bobby Kotick for quite some time. And I know Ubisoft, I think, has I think they have a president that's been around for quite some time as well. Who I think is a dirtbag, but that's besides the point. Okay. Last sniper. Huh. Nah. Once again, snipers are not really my cheese. How did that guy even die? It must have been a bounce. Or a friendly fire. Could have been either. There we go. I guess, would I say that EA is... No, I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, in terms of leveraging beloved IPs and whatnot. You know, so many of them have just kind of fallen by the wayside. Why are all of these weapons so bad? The only guy who was ever good at EA got in his head years ago to leave. Make 3DO. So I don't know if we can count Trip Hawkins out there. Huh. Admittedly, that's, like, well before my time, so I can't even, like, really comment on the state of EA from that era. Frankly, I don't think I even really knew about EA until Battlefield 2. That was kind of where it finally, like, hit my radar of, like, oh yeah, this is a company that makes a good game that I might like. Ow. Oh, I got a perk. Let's see. Skills with your highest stat. Tempting, shield, damage reduction, heavy guns, or frost sparks. Might as well go with the frost sparks. Why not? That's just bonus stuff. Whoa, boy, howdy. I might actually be too fast for this. Yeah, EA has always been the green laser saw. Okay, I gotta pick that up. I don't even care what the other gun was. But unfortunately, a lot of these have pretty... Oh, that's gonna be fun. Most of these have pretty piss-poor prefixes and suffixes, so I'm not super excited about most of them. But I'm certainly digging the effects of this gun. I love the portable pizza thrower type weapons, especially when you can see them bouncing all over the place. I almost kind of wish that this gun fired a little, like the saw blades were a little slower. Just so you could really see them bouncing. Pumping shotgun, throwing knife, nah. Technology, sure. There we go. And we gotta go back down. When did this become Orcs Must Die? Gosh. Comboing this with Orcs Must Die would actually be really cool. Speaking of, I should probably play some more Orcs Must Die at some point. I should probably kill you at some point. Why do I leave the sniper last? It's because I perceive it as not as threatening because it's not chasing me down. Whoops. This gun might still be better just because of the status effect, but I really like that pizza thrower. Can't wait until I get a decent version of it. What is this? Blast rifle. Sure. The explosions seem decent, but not quite as good. There we go. I will say, to EA's credit, at the very least, they did hire a, what are they called? Petroglyph, to specifically do a couple of games for them. Let's see. It's more referring to your proclivity towards saw blades in that game, but that works too. I know. Do we want to get another fire flower? It's better than the blast rifle. That I can say for certain. Yep, fire flower is solid. We have a little bit of a fire and ice thing going on, and I have... No, they stack. They stack perfectly fine, which is just confusing, if I'm being honest. Okay, nope, shields are gone. It was a bad room for me. I don't do quite enough damage, and I don't have quite enough survivability, but I think I'll be okay. Good fortune, good fortune. 10% more repair cells is going to be huge. Gosh. I'm thinking about it, other products that are just like woefully, I'm gonna say underutilized. Like Sonic the Hedgehog, I think is always going to be the other one. I was gonna say though, Ubisoft. I really loved their period where they were just putting out a bunch of those really slick like indie games. I've always been kind of disappointed that they, let's see, oh, Blast Gun versus Blast Ball. Main thing is this one does Pierce and Cryo, which makes it really solid. Yeah, like Child of Light, or Rayman Legends, or Grow Home and Grow Up. Like, I really liked those games, and I was kind of surprised that they didn't do well. I mean, I'm sure the real answer is just that, that most standard Ubisoft products do just, like, absolutely gangbusters, and why bother making an indie game that has a much smaller profit margin? Even if it's, like, a somewhat safe bet and becomes a darling hit in its own. If it ain't Rainbow Six Siege, it's not worth it. It's a shame. Because, yeah, I've said it before, but I would absolutely adore it if, like, AAA companies put out more kind of indie games just to let their developers refresh. Like, oh, what's a good example? You know, letting Sonic Team make, like, one big 3D Sonic game, and then, let's see, Elite Crossbow. Nah. Like, make the big 3D Sonic game, and then if they want to go make, like, Sonic Rush 2 or 3 or whatever it was called, or like one of the racing games, or just something entirely different. I know Game Freak does that, but it's bad, so maybe this is not actually a good idea. I just, I work with a lot of indie developers, and I absolutely adore most of the games I work with, but there's always this kind of weird feeling of, like, not going to say, like, aimless desperation. Where many of them really want to succeed, but it's like shooting in the dark, casting magic missile into the darkness, hoping that you'll be the one to produce like a banger hit. I'm not gonna say that like a AAA produced indie game would necessarily avoid that, but it feels like for so many indie studios, they spend 3-4 years of development just kind of trying to find their voice and like what works. I think that could be fine. But it often like holds them back in a way that like they might not be able to afford. Oh, there's a new Rayman mobile game. Really? Not that that has any bearing. Oh, shit. Look at that. Fire gun showed up. And it's like a level 4. I'm holding on to this. They aren't backed by the IP. They're trying to be successors, too. Oh, for the indie games? Yeah. I mean, there's that, and there's other games. Like, I'm not going to say a good example is on this one. I'm not sure if this game's a good example. I think this is really well made and had its voice very, very much right from the get-go. Obviously, they fine-tuned it a bunch. It absolutely baffles my brain. Baffles my brain. I'm always persistently baffled, specifically by the fact that Gunfire Reborn did just so much better than this game from like a market perspective. Like, anytime I play Roboquest, everybody's just like, this looks like a bad version of Gunfire Reborn. I'm like, no. This is the good one. Gunfire Reborn is the bad one. It's probably furries. Nobody cares about robots. Put a sexy animal protagonist instead of the robot. I bet this game would double overnight. How many other properties had their flagship characters' enemies become a more popular franchise? Like Rayman's did with the Rabbids. Well, I'd say Donkey Kong, but that's not true. I guess I don't really need the Fire Flower. Let's try these guns. They seem kind of fun. Very, very Tracer. Especially with homing, which is pretty solid. I think the fire gun is still just stronger, but still. Minions. But minions weren't like the villain. Okay, Gunfire Reborn has a bunny character now. Yep, I am well aware. I technically have a video on Gunfire Reborn that's just been kind of waiting in the wings because I haven't edited it yet. Rito, Huts, and I played a couple weeks ago, and because Huts was getting sponsored for it, I was like, yeah, I'll just hold on to my footage until later. And then it's still later. Not that I feel like my content is necessarily in direct competition to Hutz's. Obviously, run in the same circles, but not like if I put out a video, his does poorly. Because it's probably much the reverse. Elemental cannon? Nah, I'm not interested in any of these. Let's go size matters. Boy, it really does let me just fire this thing endlessly. Not sure if it's better damage than that fire gun though. No, the fire gun is definitely better. Holy shit, that's good. That's a weird dichotomy, co-releasing footage. I usually, like, try and avoid being put in that position where it's just like, alright, so we're gonna release our like, footage for this on, like, Tuesday at, like, 11 a.m. because my content release schedule is no one else can match it, really. Nor should anybody. And so often when it's like, alright, so we're going to be releasing our videos on, like, X day and X hour, I'm just like, that's, like, in the middle of my, like, release window on a daily basis. Or either I, like, completely screw up my schedule for that day, or just release it in the middle of the pack, which isn't good. So I usually just release it late or something, but every once in a while, oh god, what was it? I think it was a sponsor deal once, really wanted it at 9 a.m., and I'm like, this is not actually a good... Like, this is not going to do as well. And they're like, nope, do it anyway. And I'm like, alright, cool. Okay, holy shit, this is melting him. Maybe not as much as some other runs can and will. But, nope, never mind. It is shredding this guy. Goodbye, Judge Ball. Alright, what do we got? Repair cells drop more often. Weapons fire additional cryosparks for extra damage. Go for the repair cells dropping more often. Keeps me alive. Let's see. Dragon Quest Slimes had a few spin-off games. Yeah. There's also the Monster Collection versions, which are really good. I know Mega Man had quite a lot of different spin-offs. With, like, obviously Zero, but it wasn't really an enemy. But there was also the Tron Bond game, which I don't actually know if that was any good. I don't think it was. But I don't think that mattered to anybody. Gosh, I shred. Really enjoyed the Rocket Slam game where you had, like, mechas. I heard about that one. That was on the Game Boy, or there were multiple? Okay. I'm really digging this current run just purely for the speed. I don't actually know if I'm going to survive it, but running and gunning is really satisfying right now. Especially with a really beefed out fire gun. Usually this is a rare starting weapon that you never find like an upgraded version of. And now that I got it, it's like, oh hell yeah. Also, my stats are really high. Odd. You might notice that I'm just kind of spraying and praying wildly. My shots have a decent chunk of homing, and so it's better to actually just spread my shots between a bunch of enemies because of the burn damage. So I'm not really focusing on any one target until it's dead. It's an odd style, but I like it. The only problem is picking up themselves. But even then, not really a big deal. There we go. Nope. Hello. Really pay attention to where I'm going. I'm going here, I guess. I see an enemy, I kill an enemy. And then eventually I realize that I'm out of enemies and have to figure out where I'm going. There we go. Anything in here? There's gun. Is bad gun. Tron game was a simple collection of different game modes that was effectively done. Not many experimental games managed to not screw up most of itself. Huh. Gosh, I doubt Capcom would go back to the IP potentially without Inafune. But seeing seeing their successes with a lot of other modern games and knowing that they're potentially going to be doing like I know they're going to be doing another Dragon's Dogma. I would be so happy if they actually did a... What is here? Oh. Hello, sir. Let's see, is this beta build or the new update? New update. Summer update 2. I think it was mostly a rebalance, added some new things, but it's still good. Let's go this way. But yeah, I would adore seeing Capcom go back to the Mega Man games and like really make it work, or farm out the license to some really legendary indie developers. Like, I don't necessarily want to say that like an official Mega Man game made by the 30XX people would be really good, but I can see that actually being decent. I'm sure there's some other people that would also be like really solid shoo-ins for the project if they wanted to reach out. Which didn't, unless I'm mistaken, didn't Capcom like officially sanction non-monetized fan creations recently? I know that was always a concern with like a number of these companies, and it was either Capcom or Sega. But one of them recently came out and said like, yeah, you can make fan games of our game, we don't care. As long as you don't do, like, this or that. Yeah, Capcom just needs to be okay with making cheaper, smaller games. I mean, clearly they know what they're doing currently, so they can do whatever they want. I guess going back to that idea of, like, AAA-produced indie games, I feel like seeing, you know, having Capcom start poaching really promising indie developers that, oh, yeah, that would be it. So, there's a lot of indie developers that, you know, make these absolutely lovely games that are never commercial successes because, you know, just too many of them, marketing is hard, and a bunch of other things. It would be super brilliant if, like, a bunch of AAAs, like, a bunch of, or just, like, a AAA studio said, like, hey, you know, we want to hire you for effectively what Sonic Mania was, but for whatever our IP was. And so you just end up with a bunch of these, like, relatively inexpensive and potentially maybe not as good as they possibly could be, like indie successors. Battletoads is a recent and decent example as well of like a game that was, you know, a lot of people had kind of been memeing about potentially having like a Battletoad sequel for forever, and then they finally made one and it was okay, but you know, the market was there, and maybe it wasn't this like huge financial success, but I can't imagine it was a financial failure either. Yeah, take our money and our money, our copyright, and our blessing. I mean, I feel like the biggest issue with so many of these like indie studios though is that they need like a director, you know, somebody that knows what they're doing to kind of just like rein them in and make sure they're doing the right thing, kind of. Obviously, you know, there's a lot more to it than that, but having them, you know, largely work independently where they just kind of go back to this one person that is like the master of Sonic the Hedgehog. I guess let's go with this one. Do you have mouse input issues with this game at all? Nope. Not at all. But so from the perspective of like, you know, Mega Man, for example. Obviously, they released Mega Man 11? Kind of recently-ish. But, you know, you could have a bunch of these, like, pseudo-official Mega Man games just kind of set in the universe made by a bunch of indie developers, largely on the cheap. By hiring just a bunch of, I'm not going to say down on their luck indie developers, but, you know, indie developers that might not have necessarily made it on their own, but might also not want the full, like, studio experience, especially since, like, work from home is becoming a thing. Because yeah, what's an IP that you guys love that has not seen a game in X number of years? That isn't a Nintendo product. Because I feel like Nintendo is the one company that this would never work with. Almost ever. Except for Minish Cap. For whatever reason, they let Capcom make Minish Cap, and that game was actually really good. Like Devolver and Games Workshop best. One is just damn good with marketing, the other has so much volume of content, there's bound to be something good. Did you hear about the recent thing with Games Workshop taking down a bunch of fan animations, though? Like, they were effectively just like, hey, we see that you did all this, like, crazy good fan content for us over the years. Yeah, take it, we're taking it down permanently and nuking your channel. And it's just like... I'm so grouchy about that, you know, I canceled most of my plans for, oh gosh, what was it Battle Sector? I canceled my plans for playing Battle Sector. Not that it matters, but it's just kind of like, super shitty for no good reason, and burns a lot of goodwill. At least from me and, like, a couple other creators that I know about. Games Workshop is going nuts and causing bad will. For, like, no reason either. They're trying to do that thing... Gosh, was it actually Capcom? Back when Capcom was really out of touch? There's a period of time where Capcom DMCA'd, like, a whole bunch of LPs of, like, one specific video game because they wanted to have all of the coverage for their new game. For some reason, it smells like they're going to be releasing a movie... Or like a TV show paired with like a more official publisher, like Warner Brothers or something. Yeah, I don't know. Either way, it's just like fan content in my mind isn't necessarily more important than the real thing, but like be nice to your fans and don't change your mind. So if you want to have no fan content, that's fine. But never say the phrase, I guess, we can revoke the contract at any time, that's where it gets kind of stinky, spooky. It was Shining. Shining Fiasco. Even Total Biscuit got hit by it. Eesh. Yeah. But like, that sort of thing just doesn't work. It only damages your brands and makes you look kind of silly in front of your fan base. And it's like, I'm not going to say, like, fan fiction is more important than the real product, because it's not. But if, for example, like, Wizards of the Coast one day said, hey, by the way, you can no longer make D&D content, and then killed Matt Mercer live on camera for his many, many crimes against Wizards of the Coast products. Like, sure... I mean, that's a little extreme, but... Like, to turn around and say, like, hey, this fan-made creation, this really big passion project, you know, because it is now... wow, I did not realize the programmer art in the background for this section. There we go. Gosh, my stats are really high. I don't remember my stats the last run being this stinking high. But is what it is. But yeah, that would backfire so hard. And it's like, it's technically their right to do so, but it's such a fool maneuver that I can't imagine they ever would. I should probably actually check some of these guns. It might be better than what I have. It's just a fire gun. It's just so bloody strong. Let's see. There we go. What do we got? Point blank, line breaker. This will go good fortune. No matter what, that one's incredibly useful for me. Rocket launcher. Good one? Eh, it's okay. There we go. Yeah, we're good. I was really worried that this character would become trash, or would remain trash, but they have absolutely just made them into a powerhouse in and of their own. Yeah, fan content is literally free marketing. Yeah, and, like, if a company outright said, like, hey, you cannot stream our game, or you cannot make fan content of our product, that's fine. It's when they change their mind after benefiting from it for years. That's when it's kind of just like, actually, no, like, that, not great. I guess an easiest example, easy-ish example I can think of, not in the same vein, was Fez, kind of? I mean, I guess he was pretty upfront about it even from the get-go. But Fez was a game that really, really hit its stride, largely based on word of mouth. At least as far as I'm concerned. It's not the kind of game that was going to, you know, win Game of the Year awards, but people would keep talking about Fez being this, like, really cool thing. And so more and more people ended up, like, picking up Fez and saying, like, hey, yeah, Fez is pretty cool. And then Phil Fish, after a certain point, was just like, hey, yeah, I want no LPs made of Fez. You know, you take them all down, can't have them, so on and so forth. Assault Rifle, I think it's better. The one I have is Pierce, which is the main thing. And then there's the Archivist, but I don't care for it. There we go. Yeah, D&D lives and breathes by freedom to do what you want and have your adventure. They take that away, fans would leave. I'm pretty sure they would. And I mean, honestly, Wizards of the Coast has had a couple of gaffes lately that even make me kind of go like, otherwise I could maybe just go play something else. Like, my buddy Josh, in Telegame, clued me into a game earlier today, a couple days ago, called Wanderhome, which, like, obviously that's a little on brand for me. This gun is silly, by the way. Oops. Oh well. But Wanderhome is a non-violent tabletop RPG, which, like, I'm curious about. But also, it's kind of like set in the aftermath of this, like, big war. I don't really care. And, you know, it's kind of much more wholesome recovery, peaceful and whatnot. And so I'm really itching to do a campaign for Wanderhome, for Lancer, for Dungeon World, and a couple other games. I just gotta have just enough players to join me on that one. I've been talking about this literally for a year. My last D&D campaign was, like, right at the start of lockdown, and lockdown killed my campaign, so I've just been, like, itching to play more. Just haven't quite been able to get it together to actually do it. I keep picking other side projects instead of really pushing for it. You want to play a game about your home, don't you want to leave it? No. The game would just entirely be about, like, tea parties with me. I'm lonely. Got an invite to go out for drinks next week, and I'm just kind of, like, really weighing the options in my head of just, like, I don't think this is a good idea. It sucks, because I want to. Sulfurator shotgun, but it's a bad one. Damn it. Sulfurator is so good. But I know if I started doing, like, D&D, I'd be able to actually keep the momentum. It's just that I'm gonna call it a heavy lifestyle change. Really throws me off. Heavy Genius, Point Blank. Point Blank! Because unlike most games, when I, or most D&D games, I, like, have a bunch of hand-drawn art for them. And that takes a tremendous amount of time. And so, like, I really have to reorganize my life to fit that in. Maybe that's okay. What we'd probably end up doing was just, like, co-opt one of my stream days just purely for tabletop gaming. See, what happened to Matt Mercer? Came back from getting food. Oh, I was somewhat joking that if, like, if Wizards of the Coast decided to execute Matt Mercer on camera for his crimes against Dungeons and Dragons, for, you know, making too much fan content, you know, that would pretty much destroy the Dungeons and Dragons brand, or at least the word-of-mouth growth of it. Could partner with some other YouTube and Twitch artists and split the assets up. Could do something like that. I really like doing it. Like, it's very much the kind of thing that I enjoy. It's just, you know, imagine, well, I don't know, I guess it's kind of like exercise. You know, how many of you guys have really aggressive exercise regimens, and how many of you guys just kind of do whatever whenever? And how many of you guys don't do any exercise, and you're just kind of like, yeah, I should probably do that. But then you try and go to the gym, and then it kicks your ass, and then you're out of commission for a couple of days, and kind of rinse repeat for a while. Because for me, you know, Dungeons and Dragons is a lifestyle change kind of like that. I got shields for a reason. Not necessarily because, like, D&D is actually that, like, big of a thing, but it's just, like, you really gotta put your mind to it and, like, really get them, like, really get into the workflow of, like, putting together the campaign, thinking of all these ideas, writing them down constantly. And, like, from my perspective, also, potentially doing stuff like, you know, making art assets and so on and so forth. And, like, if I don't have the current workflow for, like, getting all that art stuff done on top of channel business, it actually is kind of tough. There we go. Ooh, there might be some sweet sawed-offs right there. Let's see, how sweet are they? Bad. Easy enough. I think we're done. Yeah? Yeah. I like the preview zone better. It's a lot easier to tell when you've completed the objectives. Oops. I cannot do sprint and having the menu up at the same time, or the map at the same time, because that is shift tab. Alright, there we go. To getting ring fit, I was fairly consistent exercising for a few months. Now it's a different story. Yup. I made the double mistake with that to try and record Ring Fit as a series, which was foolish because, let's see. It was foolish because effectively it put me in this kind of awkward situation where I had to record it to play it, which meant no exercise for me unless, ow. I don't know what does more damage. I think actually the fire gun... Oh my god, the fire gun does damage! Like, the assault rifle is, like, really cool. And absolutely does, like, a ton of damage to this guy. Oh, that was weird. Come back, you. I killed him with a punch. Oh, I leveled up off of him, too, point blank. Perfect. Into the breach I go. There we go. That was solid. Even if D&D isn't that big, Matt Mercer is. I'm pretty sure D&D is bigger than Matt Mercer. For now. Let's see. Anything else? Nah. Do we do one more? No, it's 7. I should stop. Let's see. The boss attacks were in time with the music. Cool. Yeah, that boss is super solid. I really enjoy fighting it. It's just I enjoy fighting it for a couple of reasons. One, yes, in time to the music. The other thing is he is a very direct reference to Fall Guys, which is just the funniest thing ever. That they turned the one of the Fall Guys final challenges into like a fairly substantive last boss fight is actually kind of really cool. There we go. I gotta ping a friend or two to play this with me at some point. I know Madi had expressed interest, but then I went on vacation and kind of forgot. But I could see playing this with some friends being really solid. Doubt they'll ever release multiplayer more than 2 players. It would still be fun. Always run a pre-built campaign if you don't have time. Nah, I feel gross.